Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Greetings from Cairo. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Global Citizen Talks. It's me, Mrs. Amira Saif, the host of GC Talks. I hope you are all well and safe. I also hope that you enjoyed our first three talks. And if there are certain topics that you think that we need to discuss in our talks, and if there are certain figures that you want to see in our program, please never hesitate to send us your recommendations. Kindly remember that you can follow all our talks through 5 Facebook pages: the official Facebook page of the African Youth Bureau, the Egyptian Ministry of Youth and Sports, Africa Asia Youth Foundation, Nasser Youth Movement, and Model African Union Egypt. You can also follow our hashtag GC Talks. So, the main theme of this episode is the role of youth diplomacy in handling international crises. And I think that this is an important issue. The fast growing technologies coupled with the global challenges have impacted everything. And definitely, this also has led to evolution in traditional diplomacy in a way that gives more chances to non-governmental actors or youth diplomats. Maybe youth diplomacy can be seen as a more grassroots or engaging form of diplomacy that can exchange like ideas, knowledge, norms, and also promote understanding and sustainable development. And actually, since now our world is home to the largest generation of young people, it's very important to discuss the role of youth diplomacy in addressing the numerous global challenges. Maybe we can think that the youth diplomats like has strong potentials thanks to their immersion and globalization from a young age. So we want to discuss how those youth diplomats can contribute to the resilience of their communities and how to drive social change or social progress and political change through youth diplomacy. And actually, the guest of our today's episode and this star of the today's episode really is a true inspiration and the true example of active citizen. He has bachelor and a master's degree in foreign relations from the University of St. Petersburg in Russia. He also holds PhD in political science. Aside from his like incredible academic achievements, he has been involved in many initiatives on behalf of his country. And now, allow me to introduce our dear guest, Dr. Roman Chokov. He is the founding member of Friends for Leadership, which is the international network of next generation leaders and entrepreneurs who share like best practices and working solutions and how to bring them into effect. Actually, Friends for Leadership like organize many networking sessions and training programs regarding sustainable development goals and how to achieve those SDGs. They have members in more than 60 countries. And also, he is also the board chairman of Promo organization. Actually, as I mentioned several times, that COVID-19 has impacted everything in our life. Our dear guests believe that young people should not be afraid of such challenges and necessary changes. They have to learn new skills and enhance their knowledge. They have to volunteer to help those who need, and also the opportunities will find them. He believes that the current pandemic has revealed unified norms of behavior in terms of how to cope with um, COVID-19, as we will see in this video.
As we see that we have elaborated unifying norms of behavior to stay home, how to cope altogether with this COVID-19 situation, we think that we should not wait for the same situation in the digital space. And as we discuss global governance in the digital age, let's discuss global digital governance right now before it's too late. Let's think about unifying platforms which will enable all the stakeholders to collaborate, to cooperate on digital governance, to share responsibilities, to have a universal framework agreement between all the stakeholders defining position of states, technological community, young people in civil society. And this is how we can make our digital governance more inclusive. What is more important, we need to raise the new generation of leaders who will lead our communities to the brighter future we want and leave no one behind. We need to think about those leaders who share responsibility, who ensure and enable trust between the countries, between the largest stakeholders of the global governance, those who respect human rights and dignity. And we
And now allow me to welcome our honorable guest, Dr. Roman Chokov. Thank you, Dr. Roman, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your invitation. Of course, greetings everyone from Moscow. Despite this very unhumble introduction by our today's host, please let me be a bit more simple than I was presented, and I'm happy that there is some interest to the youth diplomacy and civil society diplomacy work which I've been doing, and I would love to share with you some insights and some ideas how we all can cooperate and do something to change the world.
That's amazing. So we have to start our talk. Maybe the first question that will come to our audience mind: what is youth diplomacy? Based on your experience, how can we define youth diplomacy? Is this like it's an entity or a concept on its own, or it is part of traditional diplomacy? How do you see this?
It's very complicated academic question, and I have some academic and research background, but I don't want to be boring. Let me try to simplify it as much as possible. So it's very obvious from the name itself that the youth diplomacy or civil society diplomacy, which is a more inclusive term for different outreach of people-to-people contacts happening right now everywhere, it's the mechanism of young people interacting with each other through bilateral, multilateral efforts. And coming to my own history of being involved into the youth diplomacy for already more than 11 years, actually, my first experience was with the G8 Youth Summit, Junior 8 Summit. By the way, Egypt was one of the invited countries at that time. The summit was in Italy in 2009, like exactly 11 years ago, and the same dates like now, or a bit later, but doesn't matter. So it was my first experience of communicating with like-minded people represented officially their countries. So this is something which might be considered as sort of official youth diplomacy. Yes, the youth formats of G8, now G7, or G20, or BRICS, or SCO, or ASEAN, or APEC, or Latin American organizations, and African unions, organizations for European Youth Forum. So any regional or national or international level of cooperation which implies the youth dialogue, the youth format, is something which we broadly define as youth diplomacy. From academic perspective, also it's very important to distinguish such definitions like public diplomacy Some countries believe it's actually the official traditional diplomacy. Some countries and academic culture, including Russia, believe public diplomacy is this sort of outreach, people-to-people dialogue, and that public diplomacy itself includes youth diplomacy, civil diplomacy, parliamentary diplomacy, business diplomacy, digital diplomacy, and all this stuff, like scientific diplomacy, of course. So this is to put it in a nutshell.
Yeah, okay. So you just mentioned that we have, like, we can say different forms or types of diplomacy. If we are talking about youth diplomacy in particular and traditional diplomacy, I mean senior diplomats who are like discussing and drawing the policies that determine the bilateral ties between countries. Do you think that youth diplomacy is more effective than traditional one? As we mentioned, that it is a more engaging diplomacy, and now young people are connected more than before thanks to modern technologies and social media and so. So what's your opinion?
My opinion is yes, I do believe that youth diplomacy is more efficient, and I hope it will remain that efficient, because young people usually, there are of course some exclusions from these norms, young people are more open to new ideas. Mostly we are deprived of some stereotypes. It's not like fully like this, but mostly they try to be, let's say, unbiased in their suggestions and in expressing their views. Culturally, and which is very important, they are more interconnected right now, as they understand and have the broadest feeling of generation to which they belong to. So they share some sort of similar values. And this is actually another discussion of soft power also, which influences our, let's say, values, culture, some stereotypes and so on. And this is also part of the scientific discourse of whether public diplomacy and soft power is one thing or a different thing. And again, briefly, it's two different things. And like soft power is to how many people want to learn some language, to watch the movies produced on this language or by this particular country, or some people enjoying to go to Olympics or football international championships. People like in this or that country. So this is more like soft power, but the public diplomacy and its youth branch is the way how young people can cooperate on both informal and very formal formats, like the United Nations venues, where they can express their views unbiased, and hopefully this will be more and more attention towards young people's opinions, because our great friend, Russian G20 Sherpa, my longtime friend, as I'm also the Russian Youth 20 Sherpa, she some time ago during the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum a year ago, when she met Friends for Leadership, she said, if you are not on the table, it means you're on the menu. So that when people say that we want to sit at the table, we want to actually be a stakeholder in the process. It is very true, because if something is happening, some discussion is happening without your involvement and your destiny is being discussed, it's a little bit, unfair that you are not part of this conversation. So I really hope that more and more formats will be provided for young people to express their views, and let's continue this conversation forward so that I can cover this or that specific mechanisms, how I would see it.
So you just mentioned that we can consider them two different types of diplomacy, and we can call like youth diplomacy, we can say that it is a form of soft power and so on. But do you think that being a youth diplomat can help young people to build a career in foreign relations? For those who want to be like ambassadors, diplomats,
Absolutely. One example, which I'm personally very inspired by, our friend from Australia, Benson
Mhm.
Saulo, right now is just appointed as Consul General of Australia, as
Mhm.
first indigenous Consul General of Australia to one of the United States states where the protests are happening right now. So Benson Saulo is our longtime partner and friend from G20 process, and also 2 years ago he was one of those actually creating the concept of Friends for Leadership as it is now. So we are happy that people
Yeah.
from this level of youth and civil diplomacy grow, and they
Mhm.
are demanded by the state actors to represent officially the country. Actually, I can also share my own example. I never wanted at some point to become a professional diplomat because my spheres of interest are usually a bit broader than one topic I could focus on. But I found
Mhm.
one format where I think my efforts can be really demanded. And I
Mhm.
was elected to be a Russian representative to the multi-stakeholder advisory group of the United Nations Internet Governance Forum, and I represent the government stakeholder group, even though I'm not a civil servant. But I was proposed to do it, and I agreed. And this was appointed by the whole MAG group, was appointed by the United Nations Secretary General. So, from one perspective, I can say that I am a diplomat for some specific topics like internet governance, and this is why
Amazing.
in the video you played in the beginning, I was brainstorming exactly about this topic, about the global digital governance. But this is just the example. The more habitual way, of course, is to receive your qualification in international relations, to go and
Yeah.
work in your foreign affairs ministry, to work for the United Nations or other international organizations. And by the way, tip
Mhm.
number one for today, do check the website careers.un.org, if I'm not confusing the address. And always you can see the volunteers position and staff openings so that you can start your UN career. And also UN volunteers, I think, publish the vacancies and opportunities to go with UNV to this or that country to work.
Yeah. So you just mentioned that certain tips to become youth diplomat, and you have to follow like UN opportunities. But besides these activities, youth activities, you as an example of youth diplomat, you studied like political science. You hold a PhD in political science, and also you studied foreign relations. So, do you think that academic learning is a must to become youth diplomat, or no? You can just have a genuine passion, and you can like try to follow and join as much as activities as you can with international organizations like the UN, and you will be youth diplomat. Yeah.
Very, very interesting question. Let's start um,
Mhm.
from let's say from far away.
Mhm.
I hope that our audience and all other young people have and will have always access to quality education and opportunity to actually study foreign
Mhm.
language and the general, let's say, picture of the world, not only to become diplomats, but it's very pressing issue right now during the COVID that not
Mhm.
everyone has a technological device and access to the internet. And yes, we are
Yes.
now privileged to have this conversation, but we should not forget about those who don't have this access. And I believe that our short term, not long term, our short term priority and strategy should be to cover, to let's say, close this gap and ensure that all people are connected. Speaking about connectivity, it's one of the priorities of UN Secretary General's roadmap for digital cooperation, unveiled
Yeah.
less than a week ago, I think precisely 2 weeks ago on 11th of June. So you can also check. So connectivity is one of the pillars. And this is how I hope our young people globally will be able to learn and study. Speaking about specific quality, specific qualification of education, yes, it should be flexible in at least one or better several foreign languages. Some countries actually have foreign languages in their school curricula. Some don't, so it varies. For instance, in Russia, we do study English. In my high school, let's say mid-school, yes. So in the primary and mid-school, we studied also German language. Not everyone, but this was an option. Also, I continued in the university, St. Petersburg University, to continue studying English and German. And what is also important, I don't believe, of course, that academic degree is required to be a diplomat. Sometimes it's just a state of your soul, you know, when you want to cooperate, when you want to build bridges rather than erase them. So you should be first motivated from the inside to be the change and to become the great ambassador, envoy of your country. Then, of course, you will succeed with education or without it. Of course, it would be amazing if all young people had the privilege to receive education. And of course, I would be happy to have more international relations colleagues after different universities from across the globe. And it would be happy, of course, to ensure more programs of academic mobility. But let's stop here. So I think my thought is clear.
Yeah, it's very clear. And now, as we are talking about academic education, do you think that if you are talking about school students, do you think that we need to reform the school curriculum to be more effective and adequately cover the issues related to foreign relations? And we need to teach students the significance and the importance of diplomacy. Do you think that, based on your interaction with young people from different countries? Yeah,
absolutely, yes. And I'm also very happy to be part of one project called Global Dignity as a country chair for Russia. Since 2012, we go once in October, like it's usually the third Wednesday of October, we go to schools and speak with children about values, about dignity, respect. We not teach them what is dignity, rather we provoke the discussion of which situations in their life they can describe as those with dignity or not, and why they should respect elder people, their teachers, parents, if they're happy and privileged enough to live in full families. And we have different schools which we visit, also people with limited health opportunities. And, you know, one of the schools even formulated its school values, which they put above the entrance. So this is our little input to younger generations' values side. So yes, of course, I believe that the more young people in high schools, sorry, we call it high school in Russian language. So maybe somebody is referring to university. So for us, like, if I say high school, I mean the school where you study before university, like till you're 18. So in our schools, we do have foreign languages, and we do discuss sustainable development goals of the United Nations. So hopefully all of the countries can do this and ensure that their curricula are inclusive enough and, let's say, interconnected enough with the whole world.
That's amazing. So you just mentioned that the first step is to follow up the opportunities offered by the United Nations. And here I'd like to highlight one of the most important youth activities organized by the United Nations, like model simulations, like Model United Nations. Do you think that such a simulation and such activities really prepare and hone the skills of youth to become youth diplomats, or just we are spending like a good time, but there is no like tangible effect for such activities?
I not only think that this is important, I would say that we invest a lot of our efforts and resources in the organization which I lead, the Rus Promo. One of
Yeah.
the main tracks historically of our work is youth diplomacy, and one of its main pillars is Model UN, of course. And we finance and sponsor different Model UNs in Russia. We recruit and send delegations to international Model United Nations since 2014, like in New York, in the United Arab Emirates, in Barcelona, in Rome, and some other places, including also Model G20 in the US. So far, I know it also happens in China and any other locations. So it's very important. I would say that all our team members are absolutely like 100% alumni of, including myself, of these Model UNs. Last December, we hosted together with the State Management University of Russia the Model UNESCO, Smart Nations Model UNESCO, and this is another format. So I think that UN is such a wide mechanism, so you can specifically discuss this or that pillar of their work. So yes, generally, I believe that for practice, when you're still young and still not representing officially your country, this is a must-do experience. So please, everyone, I strongly encourage you to apply to any Model United Nations to enrich your comprehension. And as I always say when I address our delegates, the best tangible, as you say, result for you is your network. So the more contacts you do with people which you meet outside of your country or inside of your country through this gamification process, but very close to reality, the better it is for your comprehension, because your picture of the world is actually comprised by the different people's opinions on this or that subject, by your practical experience in negotiations, cultural behavior during the negotiations, and non-formal activities, which, as I believe, is like 99% of success in diplomacy. So something like this.
Yeah. So as we are talking about like the youth activities organized by like major international organizations like United Nations, actually we just have received a comment from our audience. How do you see the role of national youth parliaments? Do you think that we need to activate the role of youth centers and youth parliaments in order to hone the skills of youth and prepare them to become effective youth diplomats?
I now feel like Inspector Gadget. You know, I think I have answers to all these ideas because parliamentary diplomacy is also one of my passions. And in 2017, we hosted first ever in St. Petersburg, first ever BRICS Young Parliamentarians Forum. And this year it was already conducted in March, before the active phase of pandemic. And it is already a very senior level right now, but we started it back in 2017. So usually young national parliament, youth members, or youth elected, like just elected deputies or Congress people of youth age participate in such sort of events. I strongly believe that parliamentary diplomacy, and all my actually recent academic papers are about this, so you can Google them. They are, some of them even dated of this year. I strongly believe that parliamentary diplomacy is a very creative mix of official diplomacy and public diplomacy. If again we consider public diplomacy as non-traditional, so it helps to connect people who are from one side representing peoples who voted for them, but from the other side they are quite official. They actually make the national regulations, and the more contacts we have among the parliament members, among youth parliament members, the better it is. So no other option, just we should keep growing our national youth parliaments, regional parliaments, and encourage them as much as we can.
Great. So we are talking about the role of youth diplomacy and how to become youth diplomat. But now I think that we need to move from vision to action. How to really engage youth diplomacy in foreign relations and how to enhance their role in decision-making process.
Again, as I said, if you are not on the table, you're often on the menu, right? So to ensure that your voice is heard, no need to hesitate to express your opinion. So what people can do? They can be part of NGOs, of youth organizations, operating on municipal, regional, national, or international levels, and they can express their thoughts directly to the governments of all levels, from municipal to national and international, through specific procedures which already exist. Because, for instance, any piece of national legislation in many countries usually implies civil, let's say, readings phase, when civil society is providing the feedback on this or that regulation. So never be lazy to comment on the proposed measures, as they would really, let's say, touch what you are doing and how you are growing in your community. So I call upon everyone to be actively following the politics and regulations on their on all levels, including the international one. So again, you can start from a small organization of yours, or join efforts with your colleague in a bit bigger organization, or join the nationwide organization which is already established and has the good reputation. Don't be afraid to grow your own grassroots initiative. Don't be afraid to open SME, small medium enterprise, or NGO again, just as me and my friends for leadership did in their countries, and we'll speak about that a bit later. So only personal commitment. Try to find the interesting and most relevant topic which drives your passion, and don't lose your time. Be active and focused.
Yeah, so you mentioned, and actually you repeated, that if you are not on the table, you are in the menu. But do you agree with me that sometimes views are used like a token or a tool for publicity? Okay, you have a seat on the panel, but the real contributions of young people are somehow marginalized. Do you think so? Based on your experience, and you have participated in many conferences and you interacted with senior officials, do you feel that there is a real political will to engage youth in the decision-making process?
I don't believe, but I think there is an opposite great will of our generation to be more active. So I see huge efforts from stakeholders in Russia, and here we can only applaud these efforts, because in Russia there is a wide variety of opportunities to speak up and express your thoughts. And also Russia hosted World Festival of Youth and Students in 2017, which was visited by more than 30,000 young people from across the globe. And we building. I know that Egypt is hosting annually World Youth Forum, and there are a lot of opportunities supported by countries. And I personally started this unbelievable dialogue in 2013 when, being the organizer of the G20 Youth Summit in Russia, I proposed to the organizing committee to invite the Russian President Vladimir Putin to be with us, to actually listen to us, and we succeeded. Nobody believed that it's going to happen, but President Putin, and you can watch this broadcast on YouTube, spent 1.5 hours with us, and this was an example how people can be open, because he read all our documents, like from the beginning till the end. In this moment, people were like raising some questions, and he answered all the questions and commented on each and every paragraph of our written document, which was the first time I saw. And I believe that we should build upon. We should invite more and more governmental stakeholders while we are all operating actually online to direct dialogues, because usually through secretaries, through sort of bureaucracy, it's not easy to reach to this or that high-level person who really influences the events in this or that country, community. But now it's a unique opportunity. Trust me and try it, and then you can let me know on social media how did you succeed. Try to do it, to reach out. Use Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or Likey, anywhere where you can find influentials of your community and of your sphere of interest. So it might be a very interesting experience for you. Just to finish this, we had some interesting experience of Transfer Leadership online meetups throughout this pandemic time. And I can say and can assure that there is a high interest in the face of the United Nations with regard to in this UN 75 process. And as you know, there is also United Nations major group on children and youth, and there is also specially appointed United Nations Secretary General envoy on youth. So a lot of efforts are being invested, along with also interagency youth network of the United Nations. So a lot of efforts are being invested, and you, like exactly you, should just take these opportunities and don't miss them.
And the opportunities will find you. Yes. Exactly. Yes. So back to your work, Dr. Roman, you are the founding member of Friends for Leadership. And as I mentioned in the introduction of our talk, that you seek to share best practices and working solutions and bringing them into effect. What is the mechanism to turn such great goals into real action?
So thank you so much for raising this question. As I am involved into this international cooperation for more than 11 years, I actually started to worry that the words that we need to raise awareness and share best practices will remain only on paper. I personally wrote these words in 2009 in the Youth G8 Summit, in 2013 in the Youth G20 Summit, in 2015 in the BRICS Youth Summit. And I didn't see anyone sharing best practices. I didn't see any place where shared best practices just lie as a bunch of proposal of franchise, easy to copy and easy to implement solutions, open to everyone. That's how the idea of Friends for Leadership emerged. And again, as I previously briefly mentioned.
Sorry for interrupting you, Dr. Roman, but these practices, they are like the same strategy that can be applied in any country, or no, it's different. It's different
where they are most relevant. Exactly. So, for instance, I can mention that we started this work 2 years ago at St. Petersburg Forum, International Economic Forum, and the idea was to invite the people from our network by that time, which we formally had, to discuss which projects of their NGOs, SMEs, or just from national level we can copy and implement elsewhere. For instance, I personally very much, in favor of sharing projects related to environment. For instance, there is a project which I love and support called Clean Games. This is a project from St. Petersburg, which is basically like cleanup day, let's say, but it differs with the methodology of how you unite people, local activists, local well-known figures and celebrities with volunteers to clean this or that specifically damaged territory with a lot of garbage. So you clean it of how many garbage each team collects. So you receive points, you can exchange points with some bonuses provided by sponsors and partners. And this is something, maybe cleangames.ru, I think the website, which you can, by, of course, contacting the organizers, just arrange in your city. This is speaking about social practices which you can just, let's say, take as a franchise. But we should also think about those technological and not only sustainable solutions to make our planet more resilient. Like, for instance, our friends from Argentina, Matias Badano, they, with their team, developed the nanotechnology from agriculture, for agrochemicals, to reduce the use of agrochemicals and raise the efficiency of farmers by, honestly, almost 30%. Imagine what is plus 30% added value to the countries where agro sector is dominating. So it's terrific work. And for such cases, of course, investments are required. And our mutual effort to lobby for more investments for governmental and private companies to come to this project and actually take the project to the markets of our country. So this is briefly the example of projects which we try to collect and disseminate in France for Leadership. And of course, during this pandemic, we were very active online, and we were a little bit lazy before that to make our strong presence online. But as far as I understand, we have all the accounts mentioned here on this green line, running line. So you can go and check our activities, our website, and also apply to be one of our members.
That's amazing. So, and you, I mean, Friends for Leadership has members in more than 60 countries. How do you make sure that all the members in all these countries are committed to the goals of Friends for Leadership? Do you hold like weekly or monthly meetings to follow up the projects that are being implemented in other countries? Yeah.
We are as flexible as possible. It's not a secret that now everyone is communicating in the chats, in the chat group of various messengers. And of course, we are not exception. So we have our, let's say, public instruments of engagement as Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. So kindly check. We are everywhere at Friends for Leadership. And you can find it with the hashtags and so on. But our specific work of our subgroups divides into Friends of Cities, Friends of Science, Friends of Education, Friends of Technology, Friends of Nature, and so on. So these groups will be even more active in the coming time. And very soon we will also announce a very interesting engagement mechanism for everyone, which is, let's say, related to online contest devoted to SDGs. So stay tuned, and very soon you will know the details how your project can join not only our network, but deserve some attention on the global level.
So yeah, I think that our audience must stay tuned for the amazing opportunities that will be offered soon by Friends for Leadership. So definitely, you know that COVID-19 has impacted everything, and it's like an era-defining challenge. So regarding the long-term goals of Friends for Leadership, how do you like get adapted to such changes in order to be committed to your goals?
Well, unfortunately, this situation is really unprecedented, and I think no one was prepared enough to address the challenges by this COVID-19 coronavirus infection.
Yeah.
So it's very hard, and as in my recent article, I expressed that this is not the Olympics, and this country rating will have no winners ultimately, with the number of COVID-related infected people with lethal also cases. So yes, it's a drastic challenge, and we should thank our destiny, our doctors in our countries. We can continue our, let's say, healthy, I hope healthy work existence as humanity. Let's hope that the vaccine will be soon revealed and widely shared. This is also very important. So let's try to adapt to new challenges. But as I said before, we as young people should see the positive side. The positive side is that the gap is being closed. Like step by step, the generation gap, the gender gap, any other exclusion gap is being closed by the events related to COVID pandemic. And the thing that we are communicating online, it's another argument that everybody is equal and everybody can express and share their messages and values on equal basis. And we should use this to build upon. So I do not imagine how we, the world, after this drastic catastrophe of COVID-19, can come back to some conflict or war. For me, it's unbelievable if somebody, let's say some stakeholder group, will initiate some sort of conflict and so on. So I imagine that many of young people share this peaceful vibes, and many young people do pray and hope that we remain with, let's say, under the peaceful skies. So let's hope that the better will come, that more and more younger generation will not know what is the war and what is the conflict. As you know, there are no winners in any form of conflict or exploitation. So the activities of Friends for Leadership in long term, of course, are, let's say, entitled to address these challenges, to ensure that the world mobilizes and active citizens join effort to avoid some exploitation or conflict-based processes and simply add value to each other's projects and help each other and all the nations be prospering and enjoy the beauty of life.
Yeah, that's amazing and very important messages. Yeah, we have to keep the peaceful vibes, and we are all in this together, and we hope that we will pass this together. So, as you mentioned, Dr. Roman, that now COVID-19, we are passing through unprecedented, and we are living in unprecedented situations, and definitely COVID-19 has or changed the shape of many sectors. And since we are talking about diplomacy, now we can see that many events related or diplomatic events went online. How can you see the digital, or we can call it remote diplomacy, or for example, foreign policy, call it Zoom diplomacy, for example. Do you think that COVID-19 has a positive impact on diplomatic relations and diplomacy in general, or no, it has put more constraints on diplomacy?
Yes, first of all, I really do believe that there shouldn't be any constraints in diplomacy. For me, it sounds like rudiment to face some sort of, sanctions or some unpleasant events happening when some barriers occur to stop nations and society from cooperation. I do believe that we are all equal and we all deserve to be able to communicate freely. It also relates to opening of the borders. And every young people summit I visited, always young people are promoting the idea of, let's say, no visa or easy visa process for young people, for studying abroad, for exchanging cultures, for tourism. Why not? And the same with diplomacy. Why there should be any barriers? Right now you can all watch UN Security Council meetings. You can see how these big diplomats, let's say, communicate during the pandemic from their home, and then it's actually very interesting to see how, let's say, the apartments look like. So it's quite interesting. It's a new experience. We can also learn from the way we live, all of us, in our cultures, how we even like decorate our own apartments. It's very interesting. And I saw that unfortunately the narrative didn't change. I didn't see a lot of peaceful, let's say, initiatives. I see some, and
Sorry for interrupting you, but do you believe, as you are talking about the narrative, do you believe in like the role of tough talking diplomacy, or no? There is nothing called tough talking diplomacy.
what do you mean?
Sometimes we have like diplomats who are like express their opinion maybe in a strong and vocal way, and they call it like they are tough talking diplomats, and we have seen this term in many reports related to like diplomacy in the wake of COVID-19. Do you think that diplomacy is diplomacy, even if we are passing through the most difficult times and unprecedented situations? There is nothing called like tough talking, or we have to change the narrative to get in a negative way to get adapted to the current challenges?
I would say that I only agree with the let's say, positive attitude to all partners of negotiations. I do think that we should be polite to each other, and if we are addressing some challenging, let's say, questions or something really delicate, we first of all should remain human beings, remember about dignity, and think on the consequences of our tough language towards somebody's feelings and so on. Of course, sometimes offline, during also my experience, some situations were inevitable, and you also learn from each of these situations when you become older and more experienced. So it's nothing scaring in practice. Some sort of arguments with like-minded people when you do discuss something really important, and you do, let's say, share some sincere thoughts and views on this or that challenging situations. But my idea is that everyone should be, let's say, in protocol of being polite, and even when addressing the important problem, still remain a human being.
Do you think that such online talks and webinars, and I think that you also like organize 3 meetups by Friends for Leadership so far, helps to like break barriers and to avoid such tensions?
So yeah, this Zoom diplomacy, as you said, or at least we used like some another service for our FFL online meetups, and today with you we also use some another solution, and I hope that the more solutions will be in the market, the more affordable they will be, and all our young people, all the audience which we gathered today will be able to enjoy the company of each other via such affordable solutions and technologies. And this is also one of the missions of Friends of Technology, of our Friends for Leadership. Speaking about briefly our Friends for Leadership online meetup, we did this cooperation, tremendous cooperation on high-level dialogue with the United Nations, as His Excellency Under-Secretary General Fabrizio Hochschild, who is special advisor on UN 75 preparations this year, also working on digital cooperation. He joined all the 3 editions of our event. The first one, which video outcome you played in the beginning, was devoted to global digital governance. The second one was devoted to the cities we want. And the head, also Under Secretary General, and the head of the UN Habitat, Dato Maimouna Mohcharif, joined us and listened to the initiatives of our Friends of Cities group. And quite recently, exactly 1 week ago, we had our third one, making the linkage between the projects presented by all our different Friends for Leadership communities, like Friends of Technology, Friends of Cities, and so on, Friends of Education, Sciences, the GIST, and social entrepreneurship, to the UN 75 process. So this linkage was covered by us. We had not only His Excellency Undersecretary General Hochschild, but also Minister of Moscow government responsible for external economic and international affairs. And we were especially honored to be addressed by the Secretary General of the United Nations himself in the written address, where he wished us the best wishes and success for the event. It was another example of how during the online pandemic, the pandemic times, online cooperation, international cooperation, can only boost, because this level of high-level interventions, which we had, and we are very grateful for this, for 3 times, is like impossible to imagine to gather all these stakeholders offline. And the last one, I think, as we mentioned UN 75 process several times, I would like to remind everyone, if you still didn't do it, that you can go to un75.online and make your voice heard. This is also one of the campaigns which Friends for Leadership is actively doing in this or that forum. On our page, you can see. Please make your voice heard through this 1-minute survey by the United Nations. As far as I know, after the submitting of your voice, you can check the statistics. They provide such opportunity. As far as I remember, right now is more than 230,000 people who already expressed their opinions. It's quite a lot, but if everyone who watches us today will do it, I think the survey will receive some really insightful opinions.
Yeah, I think that throughout our talk, that Dr. Roman is giving like priceless tips to become an effective youth diplomat. So we will resume our talk about youth diplomacy, but now let's take a break. We have a segment in our talk. We want to display certain photos that mean a lot for our guests. And we believe that there is a story behind each photo. So we will display the photo and please tell us the story. Okay? Okay. Let's start with the first photo. Yeah.
Oh, yes. So this is exactly the moment of me addressing the participants of the Model United Nations in New York, in the UN headquarters. So thanks for picking it up.
Yeah. So what were the main points that you tackled during your speech?
So it was, if I'm not confusing, the edition of 2017. And I was expressing the idea of raising international cooperation because it was March of 2017, and in October 2017 we were going to host the World Festival of Youth and Students in Sochi. So I just invited everyone and underlined that we should cooperate rather than contradict each other.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let's move to this second photo, this one.
Oh, that's my beloved alma mater, St. Petersburg State University School of International Relations. And yep, how young we were.
Yeah. So sometimes we feel like after graduation we are at crossroads and we don't know where to go. Have you like did you have such feeling, or no? You have like clear vision and no,
you know, I'm constantly involved in like from 7 to 10 parallel processes, and I started quite early because in Russia the education system allows you to finish your school at 16 years old, as I did. So I received my PhD already in 23 years old. So let's say from 16 years, I was actively involved in so many parallel processes that I didn't have a question where to work, because I simply made my working place myself. So I just united all the initiatives which I was part of into one organization. Yes, I do belong to many other organizations like Roscongress or our budgetary organization, Institute of Economics of the Russian Academy of Science, where I'm a research fellow, or as during the Russia's BRICS presidency, I also work for the Expert Council from our Russian National Academy of Public Administration. So it's a lot of activities, but one like second tip, maybe not second, but let me express it that way. do not forget about internships. Try to make as many internships as possible, because maybe you are just bridging yourself with your potential employer. And
Yeah.
if you are still young and did not choose your university, try to think of your desired employer after you graduate, and try to choose this education and this qualification, so that all your studying efforts lead you directly to your purpose. And maybe second, no, maybe last comment with regard to some motto I would share from my personal life. Always try to think about achieving some higher goals, even if they're really high in the sky and nobody believes that you can achieve them, because the higher they are, the more you can achieve while you're going towards them. And very important aspect of this advice: when you achieve some little success, forget about this straight away. Just forget about this, like it never happened, and go beyond, and try to grow even more.
Very amazing, and thank you so much for your informative answer and for the positive vibes really of this
Thank
talk. I'm
you.
really impressed. Yeah. So we are receiving comments from our audience, Dr. Roman. You know that now social media is being used by extremists to spread their ideas and fanatical thinking. How can youth diplomats use the social media in order to address this challenge, such terrorism, extremism? Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I think I already expressed this in my previous speech, that I find completely impossible, completely unaffordable to
Mhm.
behave in hatred or hostile way towards any individual online, just as
Yeah.
imagine you would do offline, which
Mhm.
is not legal, which is prohibited, which is being
Yeah.
prosecuted if you, let's say, intervene into somebody's freedom offline. So I firmly believe that online regulation should exist
Mhm.
on all levels. As again in the video from the very beginning, I do believe
Mhm.
that there should be universal framework agreements between the major stakeholder groups, such as governments, international organizations, and first of all UN and ITU, technical community, those who, let's say, own the internet infrastructure nowadays. I believe that they should share and share, first of all, responsibilities to other
Mhm.
stakeholders, including civil society and youth. Because
Yes.
let's say, without this, it wouldn't be possible to build inclusive society, both online and offline. And of course, each human life should be valued. And there shouldn't be any, I would like to underline, argument in
Mhm.
favor of some hatred or violence towards any individual, because we
Mhm.
all are born to live and share the peaceful coexistence. Thank you.
That's actually, we need more than one episode to cover all your incredible achievements and all topics related to youth diplomacy. But I cannot end this episode without talking about the UN youth strategy. You are you have been involved and you are still involved in many activities that are supervised and sponsored by the United Nations. How do you see the importance of this strategy in empowering youth and in general, and to help them become youth diplomats in particular?
Yes, first of all, let me say that I'm
Mhm.
happy to see
Yeah.
such openness on behalf of the United Nations and its structures, because
Mm.
in our times when we were high school students, and then again, sorry, high school, I mean school pupils, and then students of universities, when I was aged, let's say like 15 to 20, we didn't face such huge interest towards young people as one stakeholder group by the United Nations. So all current young people are so privileged to
Mhm.
be addressed in so many ways, including the Office of Secretary General's Youth Envoy, including UNMGCY, including Friends for Leadership, other global opportunities, including youth strategy of the UN, including SDGs, stipulating for many aspects related to young people. So don't miss these opportunities, because right now all the views are towards young people. I believe that if we are to change the world, to shape it, it will be on behalf of the young people, like no others.
That's amazing. So unfortunately, we are running out of time, and I know that during this talk, and we highly appreciate your presence with us, Dr. Roman. Definitely throughout this talk, you have like mentioned several and important tips to become an effective and to be an active citizen and effective youth diplomat. And also, you have like delivered many positive and important messages, especially in the critical time that we are living these days. But if we can summarize the whole point that we discussed in this episode in a certain message that you will deliver to our audience from across the world, for young people, for seniors, for everyone, what would you like to say?
I would only say, don't be afraid to lead the change. That's it.
That's amazing. So the sky is the limit for our dreams, and yeah, you have to take the risk. And always remember, if you are not on the table, you will be in the menu. Thank you so much, Dr. Roman, for your contribution. Thank you so much. We are so grateful for your presence with us, and waiting for the upcoming opportunities that you have announced. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So, and also,
thank you very much, our distinguished audience.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to also remind our audience that there will be amazing opportunities that will be announced by Friends for Leadership soon. So please stay tuned. Yes. And as we discuss, debate, and investigate and try to find solutions to the global challenges, I think that we can have a better understanding of the complex world of diplomacy. But I still believe that the youth-led diplomacy, we can describe it as a big opportunity that will lead to a bigger impact. I'd like to thank our audience. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank our audience for listening to us, and please stay tuned for the upcoming episode. And always remember, stay positive, stay safe, and prepare yourself for the new fresh era. Can't wait to see you next Thursday. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone. Greetings from Moscow. Ciao.